Um, Good evening and a warm welcome to everyone who has joined us today. And I'd like to thank you for making time to joining us as we will be exploring the topic life in the balance. My name is Lebo and I will be your host this evening. And when I think of balance, what comes to mind is I think of something that is stable. Balance is something that is rigid, something that is unshakable. And I ask myself, am I stable when things start happening and when situations that, you know, um, occurring as they can actually happen at any point in time? Do I find myself being balanced in a way that I'm able to operate within that space? So that is the question that I will be actually asking myself if my life is actually balanced. So before we go, we further explore this topic. I'm going to show you a video, and this video is all about balance. And as you will be watching this video, please have a viewpoint about everything that you are actually seeing as a point of balance. And just spot a magic within the video that is showing a state of balance, so that once we are done with watching the video, we can all share to actually explore what is it that we saw from the video as that point of balance. And before we even watch the video, we are going to have a moment of silence so that we can actually be able to create a space of balance within ourselves, because things happened during the day. It could have been a moment where something happened that created an imbalance within yourself. So now we're going to have a moment of silence, and we are going to create a very clean space within, so that when we look and watch at that video, we will be able to connect to that point of stillness, the point of balance. So we will be watching the video now, or actually, So now the video will be playing, and as I've mentioned before, we are going to have a look at the video and spot that balance that we are now going to be talking about. And once we're done with watching the video, we are going to share on what is it that we saw. And if you need to share, you can unmute yourself and start sharing so that we can all understand what is it that we saw as a point of balance from the video. So now the video will start playing. Thank you so much for watching the video. So we all saw the video, we all saw elements of balance. Let's just talk about this. Just if you can unmute and share with us, what is it that you saw from the video that you are connecting with as an element of balance within your life, in situations, anything that you can actually think of as a point of balance from that video. So if you can unmute and share, and then so that we can actually understand each person's point of view for just a few minutes, let's just open the floor to discussing this video that has actually gave us an understanding of balance. So is there anyone that has a viewpoint about balance from the video that we saw? Just unmute and share. Okay. I don't know if we can hear you, but there's nothing that is coming out.
Okay.
I think we...
Do you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Greetings of peace. What I'm seeing is that balance has to do with silence and patience. Thanks.
Thank you. And I have Maseke. Maseke, yes. What do you think balance is?
That's Maseke who was speaking.
Oh, that was Maseke. Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So you see balance as peace and patience. Okay. Do we have any other person? I have someone saying here, balance is when to put something in a steady position so that it does not fall. Life of balance. The balanced living means considering all aspects of your life, relationships, work, fitness and health, and emotional well-being. We all get bogged down with work and family responsibilities from time to time, but making time for yourself is necessary so that you can keep up with your responsibilities. Oh, great. That's powerful sharing. So I'm going to also share my understanding of balance, right? But before I share the understanding that I have of balance from the perspective of the video especially, I'm just going to take a step back and think of situations that are actually creating the imbalance within us or within the world or everywhere, anything that can actually create us or create a state of imbalance. So we also, when the world came to a standstill, when there was an announcement of COVID. So COVID happened and everything just came to a standstill. Even those we thought that they could actually have answers, like the first world countries, the world WHO people that would actually know how to go about resolving issues like that, they didn't have answers at all. And that created sort of like an instability within the whole world, because no one could actually ask anyone what to do, where to go for. And, that the whole world was actually in a state of imbalance. And we saw people losing their lives. We saw people losing jobs. That created a whole lot of peacefulness and a whole lot of instability in a lot of people. And what would you do when things like that happen? For most people, like a person will say, I'll go to a place of comfort, which is like I'll go to a church, or I'll go to speak to my pastor, or I'll like a place that will actually bring you sort of like stability within. It could be your mother, and during that time when everything was happening, no one could even go to church, or no one could even speak to their pastor, mainly because the same church that we would normally go to was also on lockdown. No one could be able to go to that space of comfort. And the very same person that we could ever think of as like a person that we can talk to, they also were going through the same sort of like situations that we were all going through. And now I'm finding myself being at home by myself, not knowing what to do. And the only thing that I have now is myself. And I look at myself and I'm looking at what is it that I can do in order to actually bring that stability within myself, because so many things are happening. I've lost my job. I've lost the person that I love, but then I'm so much in pain and I need to actually bring myself to that state of peace, of balance. But then I myself, I'm actually in, that instability, because everything that has been created as an understanding of myself, of who am I, this identity that I have built on as maybe a teacher, as a professor, or as a mother, it has been tested as well, because being a professor or whoever that the position that I'm holding that is creating my identity is no longer there, because I cannot go out to the world and perform that which is I am, that creation that I've created of myself as this body, and the identification of myself as this body. It has been now stripped off. So I'm now in a position of being in balance, because I try to get peace, but then I cannot, because everything that I know of myself, of being, it's no longer there. And what is it that I'm left with? What is it that I have at my disposal that will actually now allow me to go back to my state of balance? Because everything that I'm looking to give me that solution. And all I have really is an understanding, the understanding of knowing who am I in the midst of everything that is happening. I've lost my job. I have a loved one that is no longer with me, or it could be a situation that is creating this imbalance. And what is it that I can actually use at my disposal at that time to creating that state of balance? And I think, during my spiritual life, the only thing that I can actually know of as a solution for myself is to understand exactly who am I and how is it that I connect with this being of myself as me, myself. And the understanding of myself as being a point of divine light, as peace, as love, as anything that brings blissfulness. And that is the state that I need to understand, that I need to connect with it so that I can be able to now center myself and bring myself to that state of balance. And looking back at the video, we saw the artist, as she was creating all the movements and as she was putting together all the sticks that were actually falling down, that way, everything was just on the floor. And then she had to now take each and every stick and put it together to create a beautiful picture. And if you look at that picture, there was one thing that was actually holding everything together. That was the feather that she took from her hair, that when she actually put everything together, synchronizing everything, and the feather was a point where everything was actually being, put together from as a point. And if we have an understanding that that is spirituality in its essence, whereby if I understand myself as who I am, a consciousness, a point of divine light, and I understand that I am the peace that I'm looking for, I understand that I am the love that I'm looking for, that is the essence of who am I as a being, as a state of being. And if I start connecting with myself as that who am I, I'm able now to bring to myself that state of balance, because now if I connect with the peace that I am, and even though everything is happening out there, but I bring to myself to that state of peacefulness, that is now allowing myself to create balance in my life. And I remember there was a time when I attended a spiritual conference with the Brahma Kumaris, and the facilitator was Brother Charlie. And Brother Charlie mentioned something that resonated with me very well. He mentioned that I know that I'm a soul, and I believe that I am a soul, but up until I experience myself as a soul, it will be only the time when I experience that who I am, which is peace. And if I experience myself, I'm able to operate. I'm able to now step into the world from that standpoint of understanding myself as peace. Then that understanding is what I will be sharing now with all others. But even when I understand that I am peace and this is my state of being, things do happen that takes that peacefulness away from me. And I ask myself now, how do I continuously charge and recharge myself, so that when I want to connect to that state of being, which is peace, I'm able now to act from that space. How do I continuously recharge myself? And, as I understand the fact that I am consciousness and I am a soul, how do I remain in that space of being a soul? So if I understand very well that as I am a soul, I have three components within myself as a soul, which is my mind, my intellect, and my imprints. My mind is when I think of something, and when I say my mind, it means that now I, the soul, I have my mind, and my mind will think of anything. Like it will just think of something, and immediately within milliseconds, the intellect will zoom into what the mind is thinking, because there's so much of data that's happening. Like you could be seeing a lot of things happening, and the mind can be thinking of so many things. Like you could be thinking of a situation, you can be thinking of whatever that just happened. The mind is continuously thinking, and then the intellect now will just zoom into something that this intellect will hold on to, and it will create a vision of what the mind is thinking of, and immediately you will have a feeling that will come with exactly what the mind is thinking of and the intellect is looking at. So that feeling will be an imprint that will be happening within yourself. And as I am the soul, I'm not confined to time and space at all, because as I know that I have a mind can actually go in any point in direction. You can think of someone now that is in China or in Botswana. You can travel anywhere with the mind. So you are not confined to any space. You can actually travel. So then you can actually move from where you are to any world, really. You can actually move from here to China, to Lesotho, to anywhere. So if I have that understanding that I can actually travel from here to anywhere. I remember there was a time when I think I was about 13 years or 14 years, my parents took me to the Free State to study there. And when I arrived there, I was very, very surprised to seeing that, like, this place was, I'd never been to a rural place before then. And everything that I saw there, it was like mountains, there were cows, there were like greeneries everywhere. And I would get so lonely, and I would actually, I would have a longing to go back home. So I would have times when I would go down the stream that was like a stream of a river. I would go down and sit there by myself. And while I was sitting there, I would immediately think of home. And I would actually visualize myself being at home, and I would remember my brother, and I would remember my brother chasing me, and I would be running and laughing, and I would be chasing him back. We will be laughing together. And during that time, I'll have that feeling of, like, feeling of excitement. And I would remember my mother coming back from work, and she would actually be looking at us, laughing with us. And that would bring me like a feeling of excitement, and that was me thinking of home being a place where I believe it was home, where my mother was, my family was, even though I was with other people, but then home was where everyone that I knew to be family was. And I would think of them, and I would actually have that feeling. So in essence, all I'm trying to say is, if my mind can take me anywhere, the same mind can actually take me to a place where I can be able to recharge myself, which is my home, where my Father is. I know that I have God as my Father, and God is actually at a world where I can actually go and visit him. And if I remember to take myself and my mind to meeting God and being with God with my mind, and I visualize God with my intellect, and I see the presence of God, and I absorb that feeling of being with God, because the only way that I can be able to recharge myself is when I plug myself in to the source of power, the source of energy, the source of what we call love, and love that doesn't have any duality. And if I connect with that essence of peace, which is God, which is the divine, which is my Father, that is, at that moment, I would actually feel the stillness. I would actually feel myself being with my Father. I would actually feel myself feeling a state of balance, because during that time, nothing else is happening. It is just me and my Father. And as I am with my Father, I'm taking everything that my Father is all about, everything that God is all about. I absorb peace from God. I absorb love from God, and I recharge myself, so that when I'm stepping out now to the outside world, I'm energized enough to vibrate to others the same energy that I have absorbed from God. And that is, in essence, creating balance within myself. That is what I need, really, to be able to stabilize myself when everything else is happening. It doesn't mean that life will stop. It doesn't mean that things are going to change. Things will still happen. But during that time, when I tap into that moment, when I am with that, what I call the source of power, it is when I now recharge myself. And I'm thinking of this experience. If I think of a phone, and every time when we use the phone, like we will be sending messages, we will be listening to music, the battery that we have on the phone will constantly be going down and going down and going down up until I take the same phone and plug it into the socket and into that power. It will now start to recharge and actually regain its power. That's what I need on a constant basis, where I need to constantly connect with the divine so that I can be able to now step into the world and step into my role as a mother, as a father, as something that the role that I am playing will now require me to use the same power that I absorbed from the source of power so that I can be able to engage at that level, so that everything else will actually allow me to so that everything that will be happening within my life, I will be responding to life from that space, the space of balance. And if I am balanced in that way, I know that whatever that is happening, if it's a situation, I'm able to connect back to that awareness that I have created already, so that if I respond to life, I respond to life with that understanding that I have created for myself, which is the absorption that I've done already from that source of power. I'm able to respond from that space. But then, even if I have done that, how do I know that I am transforming? Because now it's a journey, you know? How do I know that if I'm put to a test when things are starting to happen, I am able to still go back to that essence of remembering who am I the soul, and connecting to that essence of myself as love, as peace? How do I know that whatever that I have actually connected with from the source of power will continuously be in operation when I start to engage with the world? I remember there was a time when a colleague of mine decided that we take a trip, and we thought it could actually do us good to have like a spiritual pilgrimage. So we went to a place that it's a mountainous area, and I think it's Mount Grace. So we went to Mount Grace, which is a very, very beautiful place. And when you arrive at Mount Grace, you actually go up the mountain. And when you get to the mountain, it's a very serene place. It gives you so much of peace. And the intention really was to connect and to have that sense of, peace. And my goal was to have like, intense meditation to actually connect with myself at an intense level. So day one happened. We had our meditation. We had everything that we needed to do in order for us to connect with whatever that we needed to connect with during that day. And then I remember on day two, we were still, doing whatever that we needed to do during our spiritual pilgrimage. So this one moment, we were just talking about work and our experiences about everything that just happened. And as we were talking about work, I mentioned something to her. I said, like this thing that we can do differently. And I mentioned someone that we both knew of, and we just think of things that we can actually do when we actually get back to work. And as I was talking to her about the situations that we have at work, I saw her face changing, and I saw it was like she was waiting for me to finish talking. And then once I was done talking, she started talking, and she was like feeling frustrated about whatever that I was saying. And immediately, I think, I don't know what happened, but it happened as though I moved myself from the situation. It was like I was no longer there, because all I remember when I look back at the situation was her face, and she was talking, and I could actually hear she was saying that no one should compare me to her. So she was actually saying a lot of things, but it was like I had withdrawn from that situation. I was in there. And then she said to me, "Are you listening to me?" And I stepped back. I came back, and then I said, "Yes, I am listening to you." And then my response to her was, "Friend, just remember why we came here. Just actually um, go back to the reason why we are here, and then maybe we will be fine." And she was actually at that moment expecting me to respond to what she was saying in the same level of the discussion now that we are holding. But for some reason, I didn't. I just actually said to her, "Remember why we are here." And instantly she's like, "Oh, yes, we are here to actually, go back to, being peaceful, and, to getting back to what our state of peace, and so forth." And when I look back, I actually thought that if we have constant practice of our spirituality, and we constantly connect with the essence of who we are, and we constantly connect with the love that we are, the peace that we are, those moments will actually serve us when we are faced up with situations, because it's sort of like power. It's sort of like a moment where you as a soul, or I as a soul, start to being in operation from that space, because I have that awareness, and I always carry that awareness. It's sort of like work. It will actually continuously work for me during situations. I'm able to respond to situation that in a way that it is serving me, and it is serving others. And it is a good thing, really, because now we don't take conflict in the same way that we used to take conflict as. What we do is we normalize situations so that we can actually restore the situation to being what it should be, which is like a state of harmony. And then we can operate from that state. So for me, that is spirituality. And for me, again, that is remembering who am I, and also remembering that I need to connect with the divine so that I can be able to inculcate, to absorb, to take from what I need at any point in time. So that is power. So going back again to the video, I think when I saw the feather, remembering that it has the power to actually connect everything. It is the feather operating from this understanding of who am I, because everything was just not in was not in coordination. But then the feather remembered that I am a feather, and I have this power. So by remembering that I have this power to operate in this world, therefore I'm able to share with others from that space. And I'm able now to, have that energy, that vibration, that frequency that I have created from that space of understanding that I am a soul, and from understanding from a standpoint of soul consciousness. So for me, that is how we create a life of balance, because things will continuously happen. Things happen unexpectedly. So it's not like whatever that will happen will actually be anticipated. But during that moment, when anything happens, do I step back and take back my power, so that when I respond to the situation, I respond from that awareness that within myself, there is this power that I have that can actually respond in a better way. So that is magic, really. That is the state of balance that we're talking about. So with I know that I've said a lot about the state of balance and how we need to create that state of balance. But at this point, I'd like for us to open the floor to talking about, how do we as individuals create that space for ourselves? How do we connect with that which we believe is a solution to creating that space of balance? If maybe we can share that and we understand the perspective of what is it that we believe can help us, when we go on into this life and we create that space of the life of balance and we all share. I'm just going to request that if there's anyone that would like to share from their point of view, how they actually go to, living in that moment of knowing that whatever that is happening, it can still happen out there, but I'm able to come back and view things in a way that when I respond, it will actually create a state of balance. Is there anyone that would like to share and maybe give us any viewpoint from what I have shared so far? So I have someone here who is saying the simple ways to create well-being is using the 8 powers. So if you understand the 8 powers, you will know that at any point in time when anything happens, I'm able to draw from those powers. So if I can unpack the 8 powers, so that when we now start to, take from those powers, we are able to operate from the state of well-being. We have the power to tolerate. If I have the power to tolerate, it means that when situation happens, do I have the capacity within myself to tolerate the situation or to tolerate so that I don't get to fluctuate or to create an imbalance within myself. I have the capacity to absorb and tolerate whatever that is happening so that what that situation doesn't absorb me, but I'm able to tolerate and operate from that space of toleration. And another power that is coming from the 8 power is the power to discern. If I have the power to discern, that means that when anything happens, when there is a situation that is happening, at during that time, my intellect will have to discern what is it that I need to do during that time. Do I have the power to discern the situation and view the situation in a way that when I now start to, have solutions for that, I am having those kind of solutions from first having from discerning the situation and then coming up with solutions from that space. It happens so many times when if a situation happens, instantly you are compelled to act. And after that, you feel like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. But now, if you are able to inculcate the powers, and during that time, when situation happens, you just, decide which direction to take, and then you operate from that. I think that is. And another power that we can think of from the 8 power is the power to judge. So if you have the power to judge, things are happening all the time, and do I have the power to look at situations and, and have that viewpoint that is saying that, okay, even though these things are happening, but now I'm judging, I have a very objective, viewpoint with everything that is happening, so that when I now judge the situation for what it is, then how I'm going to respond, I won't after that question myself as to why did I actually behave in a certain way. So if you have the power to judge, that is when you understand how to now, take a decision from what is happening. Another power that I can think of would be the power to withdraw. Sometimes when things are happening, you could have an instinct to act, to do something. But then if you have the power to withdraw, you understand that I can actually withdraw from the situation. And during the time when I'm withdrawing from the situation, that gives me an opportunity to remember who am I, to connect with who am I really, to connect with that state that we spoke about, that state that is coming from, I can actually even say it's an intellectual state of being, because when I have the power to withdraw, I'm actually, taking power so that when I now step into that space, when I have to respond, I'm already in a position to be able to, say whatever that I have to say that will actually be building, not destroying. I remember I read a book. It's a Mandela's autography, and where Mandela was saying that when he was young, he used to go to attend meetings with his father, and his father was part of, like, at the villages, you have that people who are elected as a member of monarchy. So his dad was part of the monarchy, and they were actually part of the decision makers. So he would actually go to those kind of meetings with his father, and he would sit with his father, and he would actually observe with his father when everyone would be talking. And during that time, he would actually be surprised by the fact that when everyone was talking, his father would just be quiet, he wouldn't be saying anything. And once everyone has actually spoken and they've shared whatever that their viewpoint about whatever that the meeting will be all about, and his dad now will actually talk, will be the last to speak. And it's amazing that when he looked back at how his dad used to behave during those meetings, he understood later that when you have the power to actually look at the situation as it is, observe, and once you start, after observing the situation, you have a better understanding of how the situation, what the situation is all about. And as soon as he understood the fact that if you observe the situation, then that gives you more power to operate from the space of understanding everything. So meaning, what I'm trying to say is, if you understand the power to withdraw, it means that once you come back from that space, when you start interacting, you're interacting from understanding the situation for what it is. And another power, I think, the power to, I think love is power. And if I understand love as power, I understand that everything is love. I am love. Therefore, I could actually operate from that space of understanding love as power. And while I'm talking about, I have Andre. Andre, you can unmute and share.
Shanti.
Shanti, brother.
Thank you for such a beautiful balance of these powers. I think I want to share a story of when my balance was tested. And the year is 2017. I go to a center in Johannesburg, in Houghton. I have a conversation with Sister Dipti there. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a Tuesday. And I return back to the office in Sandton. And when I get back to the office in Sandton, my boss calls me into his office and says, listen, I'd like you to give me your access card, your laptop, and your cell phone, and I want you to leave. Go home. Now this is happening, and I'm going, what's going on? What's going on here? You're taking my access card, my laptop, my cell phone. But very quickly, I'm reminded I must withdraw my senses, my eyes, my nose, my ears, and I must withdraw from the circumstances of what was happening and just be silent. And that was an example of the power to withdraw that I was able to exercise in the moment when there was a chaotic experience. Shortly thereafter, after I withdrew, just in silence, I was able to remember what is right and wrong, discern. I could exercise this power to discern. I am a being of light. I am balanced. I am a soul. And after withdrawing and discerning my true identity, I was able to realize that the circumstances happening in front of me here were but the drama of the world. And I could discern from the drama and my true identity. And I could then exercise the power to decide as a soul, what am I going to do now? And I smiled. I sent peace to this human being who is a soul, telling me very excitedly, you must leave. And these three powers of the power to withdraw, to discern, and to decide came with, what must I let go of now? So I let go of the access card. I let go of the laptop. I said, I'm sorry, this is my phone. I can't let go of that. He said, didn't we give you this phone? I said, no, this is my personal phone. But as I had that power to let go of all expectation or let go of the need to understand what was going on, I had the power to face, the courage to look at it all. And these were all things happening in silence. I hadn't opened my mouth. And after I'd been through these 5 stages of withdrawing, discerning, deciding, letting go, and facing, I decided now to start to behave. And I said, I'm going to behave with 3 powers. 1, I am going to adjust, the power to adjust. I became flexible to the circumstances going on, the power to tolerate. I said, not only will I put up with what's going on, but I'll accept it for what it is and see the diverse nature of what was going on. And then I said something using the power to cooperate. I said, I look forward to engaging about what this is all about. Please let me know when you're ready to talk about it. But this process of balance that you've been talking about so beautifully happened in this dance of power, these 8 powers, just like that video where this point of light, the supreme point of light, kept me balanced. I subsequently went on to lead that organization that I'd served for nearly 10 years, but in the cooperation, did so with absolute dignity. And I think I'm adding the word dignity to balance because my well-being and his well-being was maintained, where his dignity and my dignity were the practice of a difficult circumstance. And I think balance, as I shared in the comments, is about being steady, being stable, and not falling apart when the circumstances of the world suggest that you might. Shanti.
Shanti. What a beautiful sharing, Brother Andre. I think it sums up everything that we discussed today, because the situation was calling for you to crumble, was calling for you to be disturbed, was actually testing you to be imbalanced, to actually move into being in a state of imbalance. Because more often now lately, we hear people saying that so-and-so has committed suicide. We hear people saying that, there is a place called Ageso. Ageso is fully booked because of the fact that people are actually in a state of imbalance because of exactly what we've just shared, situations that are beyond our control. If a situation is happening that is beyond my control, there's nothing that I can do except for bringing myself to the state of balance, so that whatever that is going to come out from me as the soul, as I, the point of divine light, it's going to help me to be able to now navigate solutions from everything that is happening, because there's nothing else that I have at that moment but myself as a divine point of light. And if I connect myself to that which is God, the divine, therefore I'm able now to do exactly what you've done, Brother Andre, to connect to my powers. I'm able to now operate and have solutions and, navigate, as I've mentioned, and be able now to move to the next level of the whole drama of life in a way that I'm not losing myself. I'm still stable. I'm still unshakable. So I'm looking at the time now. It is 8:00. And all I'm hoping that we took from this discussion is the fact that if I remember who am I, and I hold on to the awareness of myself as a point of divine light, I hold on to myself as consciousness, as a being of peace, as a being of love, and as a being of bliss. And I'm able to connect to that who am I. And I'm now able to share that with those that I am with during that time. And I'm able to share that with the world, because the world really needs people to actually be in a peaceful stage. If we can take that from today's discussion to saying that if I can have a moment to myself and connect to myself and be able to adjust and draw power from the divine, so that when I step out to the world, whatever the world is bringing to me, I'm able to go back and actually take power from that and actually give that, or maybe share that with others. That will be the time when I know that I'm in a journey of transformation. I'm in a journey of my spirituality. So with that being shared, Shanti.
you could see what I see, you'd lose your breath for sure. You are the perfect replications and the ones that I adore. I carved you from a diamond and polished you with love. Then I sent you out beyond the veil so you might choose the love. Sweet creations, your beauty makes me weak. Oh, my sweet creations, the whole world's at your feet. And one day soon you'll see it. You could see what I see, you'd never lose your smile. For you walk in thy own footsteps when you walk that second mile. These are more than words, my love. This is poetry divine. My signature is everywhere, for all of life is mine. One day you'll see what I see, and you'll come to realize that every tear you ever cried I wiped from my own eyes. I know your every feeling, and I felt your every joy. But you and I are one, my child, still illusion was the choice. See what I see, you'd lose your breath for sure. You are the perfect replications, you're the ones that I adore.